All righty, sorry about that. Let's try this again. We are live once again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to another live stream, and this one is an in your face, and you know what's going to happen when we do in your face. This is one that I have been waiting to do for so long. Finally. Okay. It's good to see that there's some people already in here. We had some difficulty at the beginning of the stream. I have my suspicions. But this is one of those live streams, again, I have just been dying to do for a long time. And it's just one of those things that we've needed to talk about this. Thank you so much, Queen. So for those of you who have veterans here in the United, basically you have loved ones who are military veterans here in the United States, this one's for you guys. Okay, this is for the veterans. Someone's got to say what needs to be said, and it's about time somebody says it. I am doing great. I'm doing great. Like I said, this is I've been excited about this one all morning. When I got up, what's going on, filming? And real quick, think different, Queen Bee. Glad you guys are here. I'm just so excited. I forgot to say, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm fantastic. I went into work and it's my work day started off kind of rough. Things weren't exactly what's going on, Mike. My work day started off kind of rough, and I was kind of, I was having that basically things weren't going my way kind of day, and I got really pissed off about it. Instead of taking it out and throwing a huge fit, uh, I went ahead and just put it into my work. And I got a lot done today. I mean, I was so upset and everything. I just took it out on the job, and got a bunch of stuff done. And everybody was like, wow, man, you've been hard at it. And I came home with that sense of accomplishment. So I guess you could say that's, again, how we turn a frown upside down. I mean, that was wonderful. So I really felt good about that. And I was really happy. I was like, yeah, I got something done. So I felt really good. Um, so I'm glad y'all are here today. I mean, again, I need to reiterate, even though I didn't quite say it, but I woke up this morning, I had a miracle happen. I found it not necessary to take a drink. Anytime that still happens, that's a miracle. Um, and I took a hot soak a little while ago because I was a little achy. That happens. I'm getting older, so I ache a lot. And I feel a lot better. Feel pretty good. And like I said, I've been excited about doing this one for a while. And I'm looking down the barrel at Memorial Day, and it's like, it's Memorial Day 2020. We got to do this. Princess Faye will also tell you she's not a big fan of this series. And we've kind of talked about, that this was the last year for the In Your Face series. And I'll be honest with you, it's a bittersweet goodbye. Really? Sounds like you're having a rough day too. Well, we're in that 10-minute markers. Get it out. Get it out, You're ticked off right now. I get it. I get it. You know. Um, you know. So again, this is the, one of those big moments where I feel like I'm going to be doing the right thing, and y'all know how I feel about that. It's important that we stand up for those who, have been wronged. And it's always been my thing. Stand up for the other guy, you know. And that's always for those of you who don't know, I mean, that's always been my thing. Stand up for the other guy. And you know, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do in this live stream. We're going to stand up for our veterans here in the United States because they're still getting a raw deal. And there's actually some actually very scary statistics that are not being talked about. Well, I wouldn't even call them. Oh, do you hate it when that happens? You know, you do a video, that actually, that happened to me a while back. I was oh, I see what okay, yeah, that mistaken identity. If you go off the handle and, you know, let me give you a little, you know, I guess you could say I know how upsetting this is, you know, that mistaken in identity, and that sort of thing. Um, but I will say when things like this happen, um, the best thing to do is you explain to the public. You know, there's no rule that says you can't go and do a video on your own channel saying this wasn't me. This is a complete accident, you know, or mistaken an identity. You know, shit happens, you know, and be sincere about it. You know, be real about it. You know, no one's going to take that from you. You know, if you're real, I mean, no one can take that from you. You know, who can after that, you know, if you're straight up honest saying, "Hey, it didn't me," you know, and you're sincere about it, nobody can take that from you. You know the real truth. So that's the honest to goodness truth. You know, that's how it always works, you know. Sometimes we just got to go that route, you know, and I mean that's really what it boils down to, okay? I mean, you know what the truth is. You tell it as it is, and you do it with, you know, with you do it with some sincerity. People get it. All right? You know, you can get mad. I mean, it's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to stay there. What are you going to do about it? I mean, I've given you an idea. You don't have to take my idea. You can do what you want. At day's end, you know, you make your own choices at day's end, but ask yourself, you know, what's the best, you know, best solution? And there it is. I've given you an idea, you know, take it and run with it or come up with something better, you know. That's how it works. You know, I mean, you know, mistakes happen all the time. People make mistakes. It's just how it is. You know, I get it. I get it. So if that helps you, Annie, I mean, I'm not some, you know it all sage, but I mean, I've dealt with people like that. I just had a coworker, you know, at my job, I had a coworker, well, an actual manager trying to say that I was being hateful to him and treating him with no respect or anything like that. And I'm like, I haven't even talked to this person, but maybe a couple of times. I mean, I looked right at my store manager. I said, she on crack? And she kind of looked at, you know, she's like, I knew something was wrong about this. I said, I'm sorry. I said, what does she want me to do? You know, jump over backwards for her, kiss her hind end? Ain't happening. You know, I've got my job to do, you know. I help her just like come on. I blew it off because people know, you know, people know. Don't worry about them. All right. You know the real truth. All right. So we are at that 3 minute marker. And I have thought about, you know, so many things that I needed to say in this particular live stream. Um, you know, and the big thing that I need to talk about is here in the United States, the veterans of our military get a raw deal. I mean, a real raw deal. How raw are we talking? It's actually ridiculous how badly our veterans are treated here in this country. When they sign, when a vet, you know, when a person signs on to our military, one of the first things that needs to be talked about is the fact that um, there we the first thing, you know, they're basically said, you know, you get an honorable discharge and we take care of you. You know, that's what the VA is for, the Veterans Association hospitals and things like that. It's funded by our government as a thank you. You know, you did your service. Now let's take care of you. After you've risked life and limb for your country, which in reality it's for political issues for our personal gain. Uh, yeah, yeah, I said that. We ain't defending no country. We're too busy, screwing people out of screwing other countries out of their freedoms. Um, but we do it under the guise of freedom. Have to actually talk about some stuff that we don't talk about, that isn't talked about. Okay, in discussing this, when I say that that these people are getting a raw deal for years, veterans would go into the VA and oftentimes did not get treated very kindly, especially if they were Vietnam veterans. Oh man, they're basically told to leave, to get out. I actually had a Vietnam veteran tell me about his time. Basically, he would go into the VA, did not know what was wrong with him, was dealing with, PTSD and all this other stuff from the war. And he was basically told to GTFO. That's doctors actually telling him to leave. Today, this treatment, lack of proper treatment to our Vietnam veterans, how they had to fight, it took a lot of good people basically standing up for those veterans um, to get, and I guess you could say some good movies that are oftentimes overlooked to start making people think a little bit different about how those men were treated. Um, they Vietnam veterans returning home were not they didn't get jobs. They couldn't hold down a job. Most of them, okay. All right, we're going to make some changes here. All right. I gave you a solution the other day. Okay. I told you if you needed to talk, what you can do. That was that no. Okay. You're a friend of ours. We want to help you, but doing this stuff in the middle of a very serious live stream, uncool, man. Uncool. How you doing, Daniel Live Forever? So I'm not you've got my email. This is the last time I'm going to tell you, okay? If you're not going to give me a holler to let me help you, then I can't help you, okay? I've given you some ideas. Even in the middle of the live stream, basically, you're taking away from people that defended your freedoms, okay? Awesome. Awesome, Daniel Live. And I'm basically telling you that is totally not cool, okay? These people deserve their recognition. As a matter of fact, you live in Missouri, and I'm actually about to show how badly Missouri treats their veterans. And of all the things, it goes all the way back to World War One. Not a joke. And that's been over 100 years ago. And this was like the first time that our country had to go. I mean, we were really on the big battlefield, if you will. Okay. So this is like super important because a lot of the events that even happened then has still shaped today. This is important. Don't take this away from them. If you need my help, you've got my email. Very good. Give me a holler. Give me a holler. We'll talk about this. Okay? All right. Hard about this stuff, it's important to me. Because, well, let me give you all a little bit of Prince Magnum history. Back when I was a kid in the 1980s, most people don't realize this. What's going on? Charlie sees all. Welcome to the live stream. We got Daniel live in here. We got Mr. Cartoon. Let's see who I know. Queen is somewhere in the background. Um, let's see who else we got. We got filming the ultimate grave taker. We got think different. My goodness, we got the usual suspects in the channel talking about this important thing. Talking about our veterans. These are There we go. Hang on a second. Oh my. Give me a second here. There we go. Okay. You guys know how this goes. Internet's being a little slow. Weather's been kind of goofy in the area. So I'll let AT&T slide on this one. This time. It's always so weird when I go into my own live stream. It's always so weird to me. I'm sorry. It's just freaking weird. Because I'm watching myself as I'm watching. It's weird. Weird. There we go. Come on. Yeah, it's kind of the same here. It's just been like earlier got real bright and it was real nice looking earlier. Dang. Like, what the heck? Wow. Give me a second here. But anyhow, um, I was a kid in the 1980s and I barely remember this story. Um, and but I do remember it. Um, hmm. Trying to get this to open up, and it's just being so difficult. Of course, this thing's been dropped and banged around. Basically, I have a backup cellular device, and its job is like if I have to, climb into, my own live stream and, drop a post or something like that. There we go. And there it is, just like that. All righty, let me get back on track because this is like, this has been the one that I have been wanting to do for a very long time, very long time. This has been a live stream that I've been dying to do. Okay. Um, for the record, I have a brother right now, a younger brother, who's a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army. I've got another brother that took a couple of tours in um, over in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and he's not been, he's come back kind of messed up. Friends of the family that also served in Vietnam. I mean, just all sorts of good people that I've known over the years that have served in our military. As a matter of fact, I just got through training a guy who spent about 4 to 5 years in the U.S. Army, and back in the early '80s during the Reagan administration. So I know a lot of people that served, and actually I trained him for one of the other stores, you know, just across town, the other Farmington McDonald's, the second one. Uh, amazing, just an amazing guy, hands down, bar none, just an amazing person. And after his time in the military, he was a truck driver too. It's amazing what our veterans go on to do. But anyhow, he served basically served during peacetime. Um, so real quick, while I'm thinking about it, I did see something that kind of just upset me a moment ago. I'm going to open this back up. All righty. Mm-hmm. Always that one. Always that one. Anyhow, all righty. So now that I have said that, I was actually due to go into the U.S. Navy. They wouldn't let me go because I already had PTSD, and I looked right at their doctor and said, basically, what you're saying is they don't want you to come in. Basically, the U.S. military wants to screw you up and then send you home. They don't want you to come in already screwed up. And yeah, basically, he's like, yeah, that I know that doesn't exactly make sense. I said, shoot, the damage is already done. You guys don't have to screw me up. And they're like, well, that's a good point. That's a good point. But we still can't. We don't dictate policy. So I was actually due to ship off to the Great Lakes, but they wouldn't take me. All that now being said, by the way, my MOS, the job I was going to be in the Navy, I was going to be a hospital corpsman, and I was basically going to be the guy who put you back together when you got hurt. That was going to be my job. They looked at me and said, "Shoot, you already know this stuff." I said, "Well, then training will be pretty easy, won't it?" They're like, "That's awesome, man." Okay, so let's talk. What's going on, Gavin John? We're actually talking about the poor treatment of American veterans. Okay, now I'm going to give you guys some shocking. I guess you could say some very shocking news. It has been, well, hang on here. The end of World War II came in 1945. Okay, so 1945, and it is now the year 2020. So it's been 75 years since the end of World War II. Our World War II veterans are almost all gone. In most cases, they're up in their 90s. Now for the shocking thing. We are losing, we're talking about that soon our World War II veterans are going to be all gone. Our Vietnam veterans are going quicker than our World War II veterans. Our Vietnam veterans. Vietnam came to a close in the 70s. That's been 40 years ago. They're up in their 60s. In most cases, Vietnam veterans are basically, we're going to be gone. So good to see you. So good to see you, Gavin John. This has been the live stream that I've been dying to basically say. American veterans have been mistreated long enough. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of us in this live stream that I will show you something that should blow your mind, okay? And I took this video footage a couple years ago, so it's been a while, but it is still here. And I'm going to show you something very shocking. For those that do not know, here in Missouri, there's a place called Elephant Rocks, okay? Elephant Rocks, which I'm going to tell a funny story behind Elephant Rocks. Basically, Elephant Rocks used to be a granite quarry. Men would go in and basically cut out granite. There's actually places like, I know there's some of the granite was used in obviously old gravestones and things like that. But then some of it, I think the state capital mansion of Oregon actually has granite that's from Elephant Rocks here in Missouri. So this is, if you will, that's pretty doggone cool. No, Sean isn't here. Doggone him. I've been wondering where that guy is. Uh, so because we're talking, this quarry was around in like the 1800s, and they were shipping granite everywhere. And I think some of it is even used in the Missouri state capital, Jefferson City, Jefferson City. I'm not, I know it was named after Thomas Jefferson, but sometimes I want anyhow. Um, so that being said, when World War One broke out, the United States, we take a lot of credit for World War One. We didn't win that war. We came in and kind of finished up the job, but we didn't win that war. I mean, obviously we were on the winning side, but we didn't come in and see, we're taught that in school. No, no, we were needed badly, yes, but we got involved because Germany had torpedoed some of our stuff, and enough's enough. We were standing, basically, it's like, hey, oh, you taking off? All right, Charlie. Well, it's still good to see you. I appreciate you bouncing in. So, when we got involved in 1918, thank you so much, Charlie. Appreciate that. In 1918, when we got involved in the First World War, the men at that quarry at Elephant Rocks, they made a monument. They carved into the side of granite, basically carved their own monument. This monument is still there, barely. Where they did it, rainwater washes down and it's almost completely eroded away. I'm going to show you guys that, and you all know how this all works. But I'm going to have to show you that there's actually a placard that leads up to that particular monument. It is still there, amazingly enough. Over 100 years later, it's still there. So what I'm going to show you next is this. This is the placard from that. And here's what it says right here. In honor of our nation's brave, that they sleep over the wake, they die that we may be free, no more war to be, 1918, okay? Now, bear in mind, this is the kind of the placard that leads up a path, and right here, this is who had to get this commissioned. It was none other than a VFW hall over in Leadington, okay? Leadington donated just so they can have this in front of that monument, okay? Then, this is actual footage that I did. Then it turns and you walk up this kind of lonely path. That's actual braille. And this is an actual path. And then when you get up there, and this was taken just a couple years ago, 100 years to the date. The monument is almost completely eroded away. After all this time, it's almost gone. On top of that, the Missouri State Park, Elephant Rocks is a Missouri State Park. Now that I've said that, this means that tax revenue goes into that state park. That is a monument to our veterans, thanking them for going over and doing battle with Germany. despite however you might feel about it, that sort of thing. They went over and did battle with Germany. And that monument is dedicated to those troops that fought over there. For the record, my great grandpa served with the United States and went overseas. So this monument is also representing my great grandpa. Um, that being said, that monument is almost completely eroded away. There is a thing out front for you to donate to the parks, and they can't do anything about that should tell you right there what the US government, what our Missouri state government thinks of our veterans. 100 years later, they do not care about that monument. It is going to erode away, be lost to history, and the footage that I've got right here is going to be part of the last of that video footage. That should be an indication of exactly what just the Missouri state government thinks. Okay, so what do you think on a grander scale the treatment of, say, like our Vietnam veterans is going to be in the VA? Just as bad, if not worse, because it's a bigger scale. As Marilyn Manson once said, the death of one is a tragedy, but the death of a million is just a statistic. And that is the honest to goodness truth. Um, the fact of the matter is that the Missouri state government could easily preserve that whole. They're not going to do it. They don't care. On top of that, our federal government has treated Vietnam veterans so poorly that, I mean, they did that whole thing a couple years ago. Welcome home. Talk about lip service. Um, we had where I work, we had a Vietnam veteran every morning come in before he was going to dialysis. Okay, uh, kidney dialysis. Okay, um, you know, man could barely walk, and I can guarantee that it's going to be a rough road for him if he is still alive. I mean, since this whole pandemic, I haven't seen him. So I'm hoping he's okay. But that's kind of the norm with our Vietnam veterans. They have been completely mistreated. I'm going to take you back in time. It's the 1980s, and action movies were really coming into their own. But the one that'll stand out, and it wasn't exactly an 80s movie, it was released in 78 or 79. And a lot of people kind of look down their nose at it. But what that movie did really made us start thinking about the way we were treating our Vietnam veterans that came home as a society. Because before this time, we didn't treat them very good. We treated them very poorly. Um, the movie First Blood, the original Rambo movie, if you've not seen it, you need to check it out. The way Sylvester Stallone is treated in that movie, that was commonplace. They all the veterans returning home were treated very poorly. That whole thing where I said they would go into the VA and they were basically told to get out. That's not a joke. That's how they were treated. For the record, we have a lot of Vietnam veterans starting in 1958 and running all the way until 1974, 75 when we left. Okay. So most of these men were drafted. They were basically told to go, that they were serving their country, whether they liked it or not. So they were drafted. They were sent overseas to a hostile environment for a war that we should not have been there for, to be brought home and treated very poorly. These men were really treated badly. Um, so when Sylvester Stallone did that movie, First Blood, um, I keep wanting to get my hands on the book, but that movie did something. It made us take a look at the way we were treating our veterans. our world, our Vietnam veterans, because World War II was oftentimes called the Good War. No one, no one. Um, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of stuff that's still coming out about World War II. For example, John F. Kennedy, we found out in his documents that Adolf Hitler did not die in 1945, like we were told. What's going on, Blacklight? We're talking about our veterans. If you got any family members who are veterans, holler at them. Tell them they want to hear this. Okay. So you got any family members who are veterans? Holler at them. Okay. And I know Mr. Cartoon is still in here. He's got to be, because I think he might know about Elephant Rocks. Okay. Elephant Rocks. So that monument's been there for over 100 years and it's almost gone. Um, and I know think different. If he's still in here, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll talk about Elephant Rocks in a moment. It's really funny because I got to see it as I went there first time when I was a kid. And it's not that far from where I live. Sometime I'm gonna have to go back up there with some camera equipment. It's really neat. Okay. Now that I've talked about that, um, so now things are starting to look, basically that movie kind of woke people up to the treatment of Vietnam veterans. Hey man, I'm glad you're here, Blacklight. I've been wanting to call you Blucky, just as a nickname for you. Just call you Blucky. That's going to be your nickname from me, Blacklight. You're going to be Blucky here on the Prince Magnum channel. There you go. That's your nickname from me. Me to you, There you go. Not to be mistaken with Plucky Duck from the, long time ago. Anyhow. All right, so now that I've talked about that, and we've talked about that monument, in the 1980s, things started looking different, and the propaganda in the 80s shifted. So if you were in elementary school, and oh, you love the nickname, in elementary school, um, we were almost like being reconditioned that at some point we were going to go to Vietnam. Us kids we were going to go back to Vietnam. It was almost like the propaganda was really big. Uh, as a matter of fact, where I would oftentimes live, we were told that if you ran into a communist, you were not to trust them and you were to beat the hell out of them with an inch of their life. And this is an elementary school in the 80s that we're being taught this. Communists are not to be trusted and things like that. For the record, when we started doing business with communist China, and my 80s child like mine was like, whoa, who said this is okay? This is not okay. Because we already knew that. Hey, what's going on, Tago? Thanks, Lucky. We're talking about our we're talking about our veterans and their poor treatment here in the United States. With Memorial Day coming up, I felt it was kind of fitting that I go live and talk about how poorly our veterans are treated here in the United States. They're still very poorly treated. I'm going to give you something that shouldn't shock you. It's been you know, as of the year 2020, it has been 5 years ago that World War II ended. 75 years ago. That is awesome, right? Well, here's the problem. That means a lot of our World War II veterans are now in their 90s, okay? They're going to be gone soon. All of them are going to be gone. For the record, when I was a young CNA at my first job in a nursing home, all the way back in 1997, I got to take care of one World War I veteran. They're all gone. Those true gems to our American culture are gone. We are now getting to the point where our World War II veterans are going to be gone. However, now that I've said that, they better get respected. I know. I will tell all of you right now that the Australian military fought side by side with the United States during the Second World War and during the First World War, and those men are probably some of the toughest son of a guns that from the history I've read. They have a reputation for being rough, tough, and hard to bluff. Australia has some of the toughest men in their, in their just their veterans. Out of their veterans, they have some of the toughest and finest men that have ever served in a military. That also goes for our Canadian allies as well. The Canadian, I know sometimes Canada gets a no, the Canadians are some of the finest fighters in the world. I know many of them have fought shoulder to shoulder with the United States, with the United States military, and those men are some of the, they're very tough. Canada does not get enough credit for how tough their military is. And I know, for those that do not know, Gamerin, BRFC, is a veteran. Ian, he is a veteran of Her Majesty's Royal Marine Corps. He is one of the roughest, toughest guys that comes through our that is a part of the Maverick Nation. He is one of the toughest, and I will tell you right now, he is one of the finest men that has graced the Maverick Nation's ranks. And even though he isn't a U.S. veteran, I still, even though I know he's not in here right now, I still want to give him a big thank you for serving shoulder to shoulder with people like my younger brother, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then of course my younger brother who's a staff sergeant in the U.S. Army right now. He's actually stationed in Colorado, last I heard. So he Gamerin is he's one of the tough ones. He's one of the, even though he still deserves to be recognized this Memorial Day as a big thank you for his service. And, because part of the Allies, so for those of you who didn't know that, I actually know that. And he's even said that he would hop a ship in uniform and come over here if anybody met. I'd be like, man, I'd believe it too. I mean, he looks it still. He still looks rough, tough, and hard to bluff. I'm not kidding you. Yep. The Marines are tough. Here in the United States, our Marine Corps, I'm going to say it right now, our Marine Corps they are brutal. If you ever look up the Crucible for the U.S. Marine Corps, oh my God. I know I'm a masochist, but I would love it. I love that. I would be at home because I'm crazy like that. I would. I hope one day the Prince Magnum channel is big enough where I get the opportunity to ask our U.S. Marines, can I do the Crucible with you guys just once? I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds crazy, but I would love to do it once. I know you probably, yeah, it's all over YouTube, the Crucible. I want to do it. I would love it because I mean, again, for those that don't know, I was enlisted into the U.S. Navy, but again, they denied my service. But I was actually due to ship out to basic training for the U.S. Navy, and as soon as I came out of basic, I was to ship directly to begin training as a hospital corpsman. And then I was going to ship out on an aircraft. Then I was supposed to, then I would ship out on an aircraft carrier for about 6 months, come home, and then I wanted to spend a little time at home, and then I wanted to do sub duty after that. I wanted to do sub duty, be a hospital corpsman. Drill sergeant. I don't know. I don't know. As a DI, well, I'm tough. I'm tough about a lot of stuff, but I'd probably make a. I'm probably better off in the hospitals. But I've working in the medical field. I took care of a lot of our veterans, and here's the thing I was started to talk about. Our Vietnam veterans. Vietnam's only been over like 45 years, really, and our Vietnam veterans are almost all gone too. I have current family members who are veterans. Well, who are yes, I have several family members who have served. I had an uncle who served in the U.S. Navy for years. Well, I appreciate that, Bucky. I'd take that as a uh, you know I'd take that as a big compliment too. You know, very good, very good. Pearl Harbor, Pearl Harbor, and that's been almost 80 years ago. 80 years ago. Take that in for a moment. The Day of Infamy. If you've never heard the Day of Infamy speech, you definitely should listen to it. And not just the opening line, the whole thing. Just, I'm getting chills thinking about it. I mean, Franklin Roosevelt really, really said what needed to be said that day. And, again, you know, um, bear in mind, soon our World War II veterans are going to be all gone. I love that game. I still play it every now and again. Um, okay, for you gamers out there, Medal of Honor, the Medal of Honor series used to really, really focus on World War II. And I hate how the series has been kind of lax and they've tried to I think they even tried to modernize it once. No, take me back to World War II or take me to World War One. Medal of Honor, EA Games, that's where we need to go. Back to the World Wars, okay? That's part of our history, and we need to. But yes, the Medal of Honor series, my goodness, was just, I'm telling you, it was, yes, showed some news reel. I loved it. I loved it. And so if you guys have never checked out those games, do so because there's so much information in those games. As a matter of fact, Medal of Honor Underground for the PlayStation 1 is about the French Resistance in Paris. Let me tell you guys that the French Resistance does not get talked about enough. The catacombs under Paris, how they tried to put that into the game, just wonderful, wonderful. And that again, we're talking how important this stuff was to the second. I know all of this because my grandpa served during the Second World War. Give you a little bit of history. Yep, Vanguard wasn't bad either. Myself, I honestly, I enjoy. I've got Vanguard. I've got Vanguard. Uh, I also enjoyed playing Medal of Honor. I enjoyed all the Medal of Honor games. My goodness. I think it was Frontline. Medal of Honor Frontline is an amazing one. And the plane that you have to capture at the end of the game, that is that was actually a true to life thing that almost happened. If you will, Nazi Germany's near. almost building their own stealth fighter. And from what I understood, it would have worked. It would have worked. Our radar would not have been able to pick it up. European assault, really. European assault was okay. I didn't mind it. It wasn't bad. So again, we're talking, just hang on here. Let's take a quick trip into the gamers out there that want to get a chance to look at some history. I will mention some of the TV shows and things like that. I've got a bunch of old video games here. Let's see. Yeah, here's Rising Sun. These are all my old PlayStation games. What's in here? Oh, Mercenaries. Damn good game, too. That ain't no video game. Ah. This is a hard-ass game to play. That's right. Very good, Mr. Cartoon. This one is about Vietnam. Definitely check this one out. Definitely check that one out. Brothers in Arms. This is a good one. Damn good game. Damn good one. So for our gamers, if you're going to check, if you want some history, the games I'm showing you, definitely very good. The games I'm showing you right now are definitely worth your time if you want to take a look at history. This is my favorite Medal of Honor game to play. Okay? I wouldn't say you're into history. You're into history. Okay. Oh, and you mentioned this one. I've got it. Hang on. Vanguard. I think that's it for my game for my historical games. So there you go, and tons of video footage out there. Again, now that I've kind of talked about that, again for all of our veterans, yes, I still keep up with all that historical knowledge. During today, we are losing our Vietnam veterans faster than we are our World War. Yes, I love that one. Let's see. Yeah, Arnhem Knights. In that one, where they were talking about a bridge too far. That actually Operation Market Garden. Bernard Montgomery, one of the biggest embarrassments for Britain during the Second World War. Montgomery, really, I mean, I will tell you all that when I played Rising Sun, I have to turn the volume off when they go by the Arizona. I have to turn it off because I start tearing up and crying because all those sailors and Marines that were trapped in the Arizona. It's too you know, we're actually slowly losing the Arizona completely to history now. And there's been no efforts to preserve it. It's just been considered a folks. Our veterans deserve better than this. And what I've been trying to say is during the 1980s, for those that have not seen the Vietnam Memorial Wall, there's a mobile one that makes its way around. I've seen the mobile once in my lifetime. No, I'm sorry, twice. Twice. I've got to see it twice. And I remember seeing it for the first time. It was in 1984. And this was the first time. And Dad took both my mom, who was pregnant with my little brother at that time. I was about 4 then, and myself to see it for the first time. And it was kind of like, the big thing, this is the new monument finally saying, recognizing the servicemen that didn't return home after. That's good. That's very good that you do that. That's very good that you do that. Um, you know, and I remember seeing this wall. I didn't fully understand what it was until my dad explained it, what POW meant, MIA, or, anything like that. Um, and basically that wall was for the servicemen that didn't return home, basically. KIA. I didn't understand what all that meant, and Dad had to explain it to me. Well, I happened to look over. Bear in mind, I'm 4 years old, very awkward, typical awkward kid. I happened to look over, and I've told this story before here on the channel, but it's been a while since I've told it. I remember as a kid seeing this man. He's standing there with a piece of paper in his hand, and he's going over the list. He gets to a certain point, and he stops. He's still got that piece of paper in his hand, and his fingers at the wall. He brings that hand back right like this, and he drops to his knees. And I didn't understand what. And this fully grown man, starts crying, and I still remember it as a kid. It's just like it just happened yesterday. I look at Dad and say, "What's wrong with that man?" And my dad says, "His friend didn't come home from the war." And before Dad could stop me, I run over to the guy, and there I am standing there all awkward as a kid. And I said to this man, this Vietnam veteran, I don't even remember his name, but this veteran, I said, "Mister, I'm sorry your friend didn't come home." And the man looks up, tears in his eyes, and he just gives me a great big hug. And, like, of all the things, a kid runs over and says, "I'm sorry." And my dad runs up, but I took off before he had a chance to grab hold of me. So I was pretty quick about it. And Dad basically says, "Sir, I am so sorry my son is bothering you." He said, "He's not a bother at all." And my dad and this guy talked for a little while, and talked about, being home and things like that. And here my dad's a firefighter for Metro West Fire District, and he's talking to this. They didn't even know each other, and it all started with me running up there. So the guy then says, basically tells Dad that, I wasn't a bother, that it was very nice of me. And before they parted ways, he says, "Take good care of this boy." He said, "I got a feeling that one of these days he's going to do something special." I'd like to think that I have. I would hope that I have. So if he's still out there, if he's still alive, you're watching this, I remember. So that to tell you, it was a weird time in the 1980s when the second Rambo, First Blood Part 2 came out. Rambo First Blood Part 2. I'm so sorry. When that movie came out, when Sylvester Stallone at the beginning of the movie said, "Do we get to win this time?" A lot of people, to tell you how much that resonated with American culture, oh buddy, did it. That was like the one thing. Our Vietnam veterans got screwed big time. And so in the 1980s, that was still a big issue, a big problem in the 1980s. where a lot of our veterans were finally speaking out, and some of them were now teachers. Some of them were teachers. I had two different teachers two history teachers that were Vietnam veterans, and they were doing their best to keep history alive because there was already the narrative where they were trying to change history. And these hardworking men who served, during Vietnam, did their best to um, basically tell us the truth when it came to Vietnam. These hardworking men who served their country were fighting to basically keep that history alive. They were the ones that told the truth, told what it was like to us kids, didn't lie to us. Okay. Oh, it was happy. The TV shows were not giving it any justice. Um, so there was kind of this whole narrative in the 80s where us kids were almost being reconditioned that we were going to be going back to Vietnam. Just because of the way that everyone still talked about it. As a matter of fact, when we went to the first Persian Gulf War, there was a lot of us that felt like that was supposed to be our war. Not a joke. I know I was one of them. That was almost like, this is supposed to be us, because we've been told that, we've been almost like brainwashed as kids that we were supposed to be soldiers, because we lost Vietnam and we were going to go back and we were going to get that win, that sort of thing. We were almost being reconditioned, and that was the propaganda at the time. So when we went to the Gulf, we went to the Persian Gulf, and the first time, during that invasion of Kuwait, yeah, um, there was a lot of us that felt that we should have been there. That's not a joke. That is honest to goodness truth. A lot of us felt that we should have been there. Of course, that was also during the time of the LA riots, for those who don't remember that. I actually remember that too. What, 1992? Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? So now you guys are hearing this stuff. Today, our veterans, our Vietnam veterans are almost all gone. Our government has done an amazing job to not give them the medical attention that they needed. And our Vietnam veterans are actually passing away at the rate of basically faster than our World War II veterans. And our World War II veterans are in their 90s in most cases. Along with that, our Korean veterans are doing just fine. Believe it or not, they're doing pretty doggone good. Actually, I think that they're doing so well that no one talks about it, so that worries me. If it and to tell you the truth, when it comes to Korea, if it had not been for for the movie and TV show MASH, we would have forgotten about Korea. We would have forgotten about Korea. And we shouldn't have, but we almost forgot about Korea. So if it had not been for the TV show and had not been for the movie, we would have lost that preserved Korea, because that was almost forgotten to history. Again, that seems to be the narrative with our government, that they don't want to they gave them basically they give them a day, they give them a couple of days a year to kind of say thank you for us sending you to risk your lives in a lot of cases against your own will. And along with that, we're still not going to give you the medical benefits that you deserve. You're still not going to, basically, it's all lip service. It's all lip service. Our veterans deserve better. If you want to know that history has a tendency to repeat itself, Take a look at the bonus army during the Depression. Take a look at the bonus army during the Great Depression, and that is exactly what, even to this day, our government thinks of our veterans. The truest badasses from our country, that's what they think of them. And it's still that way today. It has not changed. They just treat it a little bit different. They just put they just put special bows on it. Remember the troops. They just put a special bow on it. That's the only difference. Remember the troops. Now that I've said all of that, again, I've showed the video footage. We'll do it again. The video footage I'm going to show you again. Give it a few more years, and this will be the last. This is going to probably be the only, could be some of the only surviving footage of this monument, because the Missouri state government does not care about our veterans either. Missouri is a communist state as it is. So they're not going to do anything to preserve it. They don't want you to remember those fine men and women who served. They don't want you to remember them. This is the placard. Again, for those that were here earlier, just to review, but for those that are coming in now, this placard is a dedication plaque to a monument that's here in Missouri that was done at a granite quarry that's actually a state park now. In honor of our nation's brave, that they sleep over there, over the wake. They died that we be free. No more war to be. 1918. Okay. I apologize. And then right up this path, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I took this video footage. This was video footage from a couple years ago. So this is actual video footage that I got. And bear in mind, this Leadington, the Leadington veterans, the veterans, VFW that did this. But right up this path, right along this rock face, is what is left of this monument that was done by the quarry workers in the state park 100 years ago. And that's it. It's almost completely eroded away. It's almost gone. And you all understand that here on the Prince Magnum channel, we do our best to preserve history to the best of our abilities, but it is almost gone. This piece of history, you can actually see the sun where it's like here, it's nearly gone. For the record, the Missouri, this particular park takes donations to help keep up with the park. Why is that not being taken care of? And the answer again, because Missouri is a communist country. They don't want to take care of our veterans. They don't want to actually truly remember them. They get their name and they get their day and name only. What's going on? Jamie of the Isolationist Network, welcome to the live stream. It is good to see you. Okay. Welcome back, Blacklight. Mr. Cartoon, I'll shoot you a holler right after the live stream. Jamie, you're in time. Here in the United States, I know you're across the pond. Here in about a week. You too, huh? Here in the United States is what we call Memorial Day, and it's kind of a remembrance of our veterans. And basically, I'm calling out my own government for only paying lip service to our veterans. Thank you, Queen. I appreciate you being here. And basically, this is the live stream that I have been dying to do for a long time. Now, the series that this is attached to, In Your Face, Jamie, this series goes away at the end of this year. This will no longer be a series here on the Prince Magnum channel, where we bring to light a lot of issues that are not being dealt with. At some point later this year, we're going to talk about how The United States government has been blocking the Native American Sioux tribe, the Lakota Nation, from being recognized. Thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate that. For being recognized as a country. The United States government is blocking the Lakota Nation, a Native American tribe, from being recognized as its own country. As a matter of fact, there's even a whole thing on Standing Rock. And real quick, Jamie, you're going to appreciate this. One of the longstanding, just like I know you're across the pond. I know you and Nerdy Nikki will appreciate this. Here on the Prince Magnum channel, we have one of the United Kingdom's finest as a member of the Maverick Nation. That would be none other than Gamerin BRFC. He is a veteran of Her Majesty's Royal Marine Corps and served in the early 2000s over in Egypt. So Gamerin BRFC is a member of Her Majesty's is a veteran of Her Majesty's Royal Marine Corps. And it is an absolute honor when he is in the live stream. An absolute honor. And I even tell everyone that he is one of our finest members of the Maverick Nation. Even though he's not an American veteran, here on the Prince Magnum channel, we still recognize him as a veteran, and we still thank him for his service worldwide. We thank him for his service. It is an absolute honor to have him as a member of the Maverick Nation. But again, for those that do not know, again, I have had many relatives. My great-grandfather served during the First World War. My grandfather served during the Second World War. I have one uncle who retired from the U.S. Navy. I myself was actually enlisted to become a sailor and a hospital corpsman, with the U.S. Navy, but was denied my time serving my country for a war that we probably shouldn't have been involved, that we could have avoided anyways. I was denied that because I already had post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. They keep changing the name. Either one. But I have a brother who did serve in the U.S. Army in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and currently, Remembrance Day in the UK. Okay, there you go. So Gamerin basically he gets his thank you from us, even though he served in the UK's, in Her Majesty's Royal Marine Corps. He's still, because the United States, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, we're all allies, and because of that, and of course, I think we're still allies with France. France gets a bad rap. Oh my gosh, they get a bad rap. And they're, called Remembrance Day in Australia. Well, here in the United States, we have 3 different days. We have Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and dang it, come on, brain cell. Well, anyhow, we get 3 days remembering different, the ones that are in. And then, of course, the Veterans Day, and then, of course, Memorial Day is for the ones that didn't come home. You just caught that. My Harley Quinn shirt. Yep, that's my Harley Quinn shirt. For the record, yeah, I will just say this. I keep trying to talk Princess Faye into getting done up like this. Anyhow, I didn't say that. If Sean was in here, he'd go giggity. Anyhow, so again, oh, and sexy. No, not quite, not quite, not quite. But anyhow, um, but here in the United States, they give like 3 days to our they actually give like a day for the servicemen and women who are currently serving, and then they have the whole day with um for our veterans, and then of course we also have a day that is for the servicemen and women who didn't return home, and that's Memorial Day. Uh, Veterans Day here in the United States was created. They used to call it Armistice Day, and that was the day that the ceasefire was called during the First World War. So for those who do not know their history, that is the here in the United States, what is known as Veterans Day is actually the day that the armistice was signed. Was also yeah, I think like yeah, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day. Veterans Day was also General George S. Patton Jr.'s uh, birthday. Our greatest four-star general that ever was in the U.S. Army. That General George S. Patton. That was his birthday. Was also Veterans Day. For those who do not know that, ironically, see what I mean by the all of that right in there. Bring it around the front. So again, for those that have family members, this live stream is for them. They've been given a raw deal in this country. The VA hospitals. We'll get to all of that later in the live. So honestly, I mean, as sad as it sounds, that is the commonplace thing where our veterans just get treated very, very poorly. We are losing our Vietnam veterans faster than our World War II veterans. We will soon no longer have our Vietnam veterans. They will be all gone. It's too soon for them to be gone. Now, I'm going to tell you how important our Vietnam veterans really are. Oh, no, I get it. I get it. It's all good. Our Vietnam veterans, when I got sober and got to my 1 year marker, I no longer had alcohol to numb the effects of my PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I still have flashbacks. There are times I will wake up in the middle of the night. Princess Faye has actually had to wake me up because I was screaming in my sleep. I'll just have a what? You have a question. What's your question? What's your question? That's good. Queen's got a question. Ooh, what's she gonna throw at me? I'm curious. Yes, there was. Agent Orange, for those that do not know, was more or less a pesticide. Stephen Madeline kids. Was more or less a pesticide that they spread around Vietnam. And it was basically designed it basically was chemical warfare. Well, here's the problem. Our veterans came into contact with this. And even after after the Vietnam War, they were still, servicemen were still coming into contact because we kept this stuff around for a long time. And it got into their bloodstream. It basically caused breathing problems. Yeah, it was basically chemical warfare. It caused a lot of our veterans to get cancer, heart issues. As a matter of fact, a dear friend of mine that I went to high school with, you would not see her for a few days because her dad would be in the hospital uh, over breathing problems from Agent Orange. Her dad served during Vietnam. And a lot of our servicemen and women came into contact with Agent Orange even after the war. Along with that, I do know what shell shock is. I do know what shell shock is. And I'll talk about that too in this slide. Thank you, Mr. Cartoon. Thank you for asking me that question. But let me finish about Agent Orange. I'll get to it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Now that I've said that, okay, Agent Orange stayed in our veterans system, okay? And what ended up happening was, as the Agent Orange stayed in the system, just like mercury, it exact, yeah, Queen, you're right on. Um, but it caused cancer. As a matter of fact, going back to, no, I know what you tried to say. I know what you tried to say. I know exactly what you tried to say. Basically, these men were affected. If you remember when I mentioned First Blood with Sylvester Stallone, amazing movie. Again, if you've never seen it, you need to. When they talked about the guy who died of cancer, it ate him down to the bone at the beginning of the movie. I mean, right out of the gate. CinemaSins talks about that, like, oh shoot, you're going to drop that on us right out of the gate. That is not a sin. That is fact. Okay, because that stuff happened. Along with that, the children of those men who came home and were exposed to Agent Orange, a lot of the children carry the same stuff because Agent Orange stayed in their system. And when they went to have children, those children were affected by the same stuff too. Basically, it transferred on just like mercury. So, if you will, it transferred over. Okay. So because of that, those basically the children were even affected and should still now, basically they need to be seen by the VA, but they won't. Our government will not admit that it's their fault. They won't take care of these children. And of course, these children are now much, much older. And, they have some of the same problems their parents have because of the Agent Orange. That's a good question. Yes, Agent Orange was real. Now to answer Mr. Cartoon's big question. Do I know what shell shock is? Yes, I do. In World War One, matter of fact, in most cases, it actually killed a lot of those veterans. It killed a lot of those veterans. And it's actually killing their children too now. Stays in their system for years. It does not go away. And depending on the exposure. Exactly. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And these men were oftentimes refused help at the VA hospitals, and they still get that same treatment today. Don't let them think that just because they gave them their homecoming that these Vietnam veterans ever fully got treated properly. No, they're still not. Don't even let them fool you. Now, to answer Mr. Cartoon's amazing question, do I know what shell shock is? Yes, I do. During the first World War. We had never seen a war on this scale, ever. This was modern war, to quote Indy Nidell of the Great, when he was on the YouTube channel, The Great War. This is modern war. These folks who were exposed to this oftentimes were exposed to things that had never, ever been experienced before. And they did not have a name for it, but basically these men would return back. They didn't know because, you know, that because of the fact that hang on, we didn't know what it was, and we came up with the term shell shock. Okay, shell shock. The reason why we called it that is because they thought from the subsonic shock wave going by a person's head from being shot at caused the shock to the system. These men later on in life, you know, it was just a very unusual, it was very new for the time. Caused heart problems, cardiac issues, basically severe cardiac issues, flashbacks, severe depression, everything that we know today now as post-traumatic stress syndrome, which anybody can end up getting if they're not careful. That being said, and there's still more studies going on it, even with, as far as even genetic imprinting, which we'll talk about that. Now that you brought that up, that's see, but we did not know what shell shock was because the scale of modern war in the First World War had never been seen before, and basically these poor men were being returned were going to hospitals with, you know, with these cases. In some cases, some countries started treating it as if it could possibly be contagious, and they would separate them, which we'll get to talking about in the Second World War. So after the First World War, we were still learning a great deal about it. In the Second World War, the name changed. No, PTSD is a lifelong thing. It never goes away, Queen. I wish it did. I really wish it did. There is no cure. There's medicine. There's treatments. That's about the best we got right now. It is a mental condition, though. But in the Second World War, we were starting to learn a little bit more. We had some time to look at it. And in the Second World War, we started calling it battle fatigue. Battle fatigue. Unfortunately, the treatment of battle fatigue was still in its infancy, but that was originally shell shock. So because of that, there was even some soldiers that tried to get a free ride during the Second World War on battle fatigue. The famous slapping incident in the Second World War from General Patton was involved in was part of one of those attempts at a free ride. Okay, and there's little that was known about this until later on, and the movie kind of covered it. But, you know, the movie Patton with George C. Scott, which I was actually told by a man who was in Patton's Third Army, they got the movie close. They got it real close, like extremely close. What happened was General Patton walks into a tent, and this guy went on sick call. Basically put himself on sick call. He did not have permission to leave. And General Patton had this belief that men that were suffering battle fatigue, or originally known as shell shock, needed to be separated, referring to partially there was that whole thing where some of our troops were doing it to just get that free ride, but some of them, there was still that thought process that it could possibly be contagious, that it was something that was passing among the troops. And General Patton did come from a time when he was also a colonel during the First World War, so that would have been passed along the trenches. And for the record, General Patton was also injured, was wounded during the First World War. So, that being said, so he had this belief that that battle fatigue cases were to be separate from regular battlefield injuries for those two reasons. Because, not again, we talk about how World War II is supposed to be the good war. This is where there's always the darker side of the war, and this was one of them. Basically, the man involved in the slapping incident that was portrayed in the movie, and there was actually two slapping incidents. This was just one of them. There was two, actually. General Patton, basically, this guy was sitting in the tent, you know, and that sort of thing. He basically left, did not get permission from his commanding officer, and left. So technically, this guy was AWOL. He did not get permission to go on sick call. He goes into this tent, and he's just basically sitting there waiting for a doctor to see him, more or less. General Patton happened to be the one going through the tent. Of all the things, the one person that just happened to be coming through and sees this guy, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I just can't take the shelling and everything like that." And Patton, basically, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, Bucky. I'm I don't know. We'll get to all of that. We'll worry about all that later. That's what we got the Discord for. We'll worry about all that later. That's what we got the Discord for. We can sort these messes out off camera, allows us to kind of talk those bugs out. But anyhow, so now that that's said, General Patton just seen it, basically seen this, and he spotted it right away that this guy was basically looking for a free ride, and he's like, "Get this man out of here," because if he really is, number one, the guy was AWOL, and number two, if he really was suffering from battle fatigue, or what we now know today as PTSD, there was that thought process back then that what if it was contagious and could spread to the other men? So that they were supposed to be separate for that reason. Most people don't know that. And basically, Patton got really ticked, and he did slap this guy, but he slapped the guy's helmet off of his head with his gloves. So he never actually came into contact with him, we're going to get all technical and stuff. But he slapped it, and the doctor had standing orders. The doctor who was in charge of that unit had standing orders from Patton that if it was a battle fatigue, they were to be completely separate. So that doctor should have actually been court-martialed for disobeying a standing order from his commanding general. Along with that, the man who left and was AWOL, when Patton went to draw his sidearm and said, "I'll stand you up in front of a firing squad, I ought to shoot you myself." That's what those sidearms are for. Patton was actually within military law, but he was chastised for it. So for those that don't know their military history, he was within military law. And there was 2 slapping incidents. Not one. There was 2. We get to Korea, and I forget what they called it there. But then when you get to Vietnam, that's when they started calling it battle fatigue. They started calling it like battle fatigue syndrome and crap like that. And now we're up to today, we call it PTSD. And the reason why we had to expand it to the way that it is because people who didn't go through wartime are showing up with it. There is a thought process that there, if you will, there is a thought process that that there's with genetic imprinting that you become more susceptible to PTSD, kind of similar to taking a butterfly that's supposed to be in a particular area and moving that butterfly at birth, well, a caterpillar at birth to a location. And once they reach, their, where they're, they reach butterfly stage, that butterfly will try to make its way back to where it's supposed to be. Genetic imprinting is what it's called. And there's a thought process that with genetic imprinting, you could potentially be more susceptible to PTSD, which explains why 2 out of 5 of my brothers, well, 2 out of 5 of us brothers in my family suffer from it, ironically enough. Because I have had to, a great grandpa and my grandpa serving in the world wars. So if you find that interesting, that explains a few things. So there you have that little tidbit of information. Okay, so I will tell you from personal experience that when I first got sober and living with PTSD, it was our Vietnam veterans that were in sobriety. That there was two of these fine men who actually helped me how to live with my PTSD in sobriety. If it was not for those men, I would not be sober today, and I would not be here. Because I could tell you from personal experience with what our veterans deal with. I deal with severe mood swings, bouts of depression, severe bouts of depression. You wouldn't think, but I deal with it. And I still have flashbacks. There have been nights that Princess Faye has had to wake me up in the middle of the night because I was screaming at the top of my lungs from things that have happened to me. And along with that, I know what our veterans go through, even though I didn't get to serve. I was due to serve, but I didn't get to. So if you've ever wondered about that, I still live with it. So I know what our veterans deal with. And our Vietnam veterans got the raw deal. They really got the raw deal. And it was our Vietnam veterans in Alcoholics Anonymous that taught me how to live with my own PTSD. And they have gotten treated so poorly even now. Every once, and I'm going to say it again. I've not exactly just come out and said it. I know our hippies get glorified in this country. No, they should not. Because even though they were protesting the war, they also protested against those men who came home from Vietnam. Ask the friend of mine, there was a very long time friend of the family who worked with my dad, who served in the special forces, was jumping out of helicopters as a combat medic. When he got off the plane in 1970 to come home, when he got off the plane, he was still in uniform. Hippies ran up and started spitting on him, calling him a baby killer. That is not a joke. That happened. That actually happened. They were spitting on him, calling him baby killer. And to this day, he will tell you the hardest thing he ever had to deal with in the war was coming home, getting off the plane in uniform, and the first thing that happens is some freaking hippies running up and spitting on him and calling him names. After all he had been through to come home to that. How is that cool? Personally, I don't care what anybody says about the hippies. When you talk about that, that is the true story of the hippies. That is the honest, true story about our hippies. No one talks about that. They want to glorify how awesome it was, talking about peace and everything. No, it wasn't. They were not peaceful. Most of them avoided the draft, and along with that, they didn't just protest the war, they protested against the troops returning home. So no, those hippies were not cool. The men returning home from the war, those are the cool son of a bitches right there. Yes, that happened. Nobody talks about it. So anybody who says the hippies are cool and they're like, oh, hippie, let me tell you how awesome our hippies were. That whole love and peace, make love, not war, all that crap ended up on the side of a lunchbox in the 70s and was forgotten to history, as it should be, because that wasn't the truth. It wasn't about peace and love. It was about them spitting on men who were coming home after the war. That's the real truth. Nobody talks about that. And later on, those hippies were disco bunnies and junkies in the discos in the 70s, still trying to live a good time. No. If anything, those particular baby boomers went on, and they're the reason why we have an entire generation in this country that's been screwed over too. It was our Vietnam veterans that kept trying, that when they went to school and became teachers and then tried to, get into all of that, they were the ones who actually tried to make a difference, but were silenced by the hippies. Nobody talks about that. And I finally get to say it, and you could tell the passion and how angry I am, because after hearing how a friend of the family was treated when he got home after the war, I get so angry. Oh, for the record, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law are also veterans of the first Persian Gulf War, and both of them served in the U.S. Air Force. So, big special shout out to my in-laws, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, this Memorial Day. Big shout out to you guys. So yes, I actually said it. Hippies aren't cool. How no one talked about that. They're like, wait a minute, Prince Magnum just called. He said it. He said when no one. Yeah. So, again, those people should have been arrested for treating our returning soldiers that way. But again, our government, the irony of it all, how our veterans are still being treated poorly. Again, a big special shout out to not just the United States veterans, but a big shout out to all of our veterans around the world in every military, in every country. A big special shout out to all of you, for being a part of your country's defense forces. It doesn't matter if you're in Australia, United Kingdom. I don't care if you're a part of the military in South America or in South Africa. It does not matter where you are. And yes, I'll even go ahead and even say the Chinese Communist parties, the Chinese Communist Party's military. I will even give a special shout out to you guys. Militaries around the world, big shout out to all of you, this Memorial Day, because as I think it's time to just say it, maybe it's time that we start looking at that, the end of, all of this, and start thinking of ourselves as, one race here in the world. So maybe we can stop seeing, good men and women have to die for stupid, silly causes for politicians. You know, for the record, um, the first Persian Gulf War, the United States was actually the bad guys. The reason why Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait was because the United States had done what is known as undermining. They sent an oil pipeline down, turned a 90-degree, and went underground across the border into Iraq, and they were pumping the oil out illegally. We were the bad guys. That's why Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. For those that didn't know that. So now that you know that, oh, this is not about oil, it's about freedom. Your ass. Anytime you hear that one. Okay, so now that we've covered all of that and I've spoke out for our veterans, I feel better. And I'm glad you were all here for it. So that brings us to where we can do some traditional stuff here on the channel. Because we might as well, right? This is the Prince Magnum channel, and we got to go out right. We got to do it right. So, you all know, I got to tell you, I got a problem. My office chair squeaks. Every time, I'm sitting here like this, my office chair squeaks. It makes a horrible squeak. I mean, listen to that. That's ridiculous. But because my office chair squeaks, all I have to do is make a suggestive noise with my office chair squeaking, and you all will begin laughing uncontrollably. And it goes like this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There it is. There it is. Here we go. Mr. Cartoon, you've been waiting for that one for a little while. You've been sitting on that joke for a moment. Oh my gosh. There you go, Daniel. Put that link up there. Oh yeah. And I'm waiting for Queen Bee to be in and just go, oh God, why did you? She's gonna, every time I do that joke and she starts laughing hard enough, TFC Gaming comes in, he's like, she's over here laughing her ass off, or she's giggling so hard it's unbelievable. And then Queen Bee's like, Faye, get on to him, stop him. Ain't no stopping me. Yep. Yep, there's that. Let's see. Oh, and I got to tell you, welcome, Dorothy's Hobby Farm. Welcome to the live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Dorothy, we just got through talking about our veterans here in the United States. I'm actually getting ready to slowly wind down the live stream. And I actually called out my state government for not treating our veterans. Excuse me, I've been drinking coffee and stuffing my face like a little piggy this entire live stream. That's just something that I do. Before the live stream, I was eating like a, but anyhow. So that being said, I basically, had been wanting to go live for a long time and basically call out my state government and my federal government here in the United States for not treating our veterans better. Wow. Dorothy, thank you for everything. I appreciate your time and in our service. And because you were kind enough to come into the live stream, I will keep it open a little bit longer as a big giant thank you for for serving my country. Um, as a matter of fact, I myself, it had not been for me already having PTSD. Back in 2001, I was enlisted to go into the U.S. Navy and was going to be a hospital corpsman. But then when they discovered about my PTSD, they said, "No, you don't." I lived a rough childhood, and I basically at the age of 16, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and they would not take me. In this live stream, we actually talked about Agent Orange and how it affected our Vietnam veterans. We actually talked about what it used to be known as shell shock is known today as PTSD. And I actually showed a monument right here in Missouri that's almost gone that was dedicated to our World War I veterans. So just over 100 years later, this monument is almost gone, and it was done by quarry workers in a state park. Here in Missouri, we have a place called Elephant Rocks, and just for you, I will do this. I will do this for you. We have a place called Elephant Rocks. I started to tell this story. It used to be a granite quarry years ago. They shut this section down and basically eventually opened it up as a state park as kind of like a historical thing about quarrying granite. And it was open, I believe, all the way back during the Civil War. This quarry was around. So this quarry had been around for a long time. And there was some tough men back then. The way they had to quarry it because you didn't have the equipment that you would have today to quarry granite. So now that we're talking about that, there's a lot of places all over the United States that actually has granite from, historical buildings that actually has granite from this old quarry that was even open in the early 1900s. So when World War I. Awesome. That is amazing that your grandfather's that he's hanging in there because Agent Orange is some deadly stuff. So this is my big thank you to those men and women who served. And but this particular monument was actually done by the quarry workers, and it's almost gone to history. And I actually shot this footage 100 years, later after this monument was done. So this was just a couple of. Thank you, Mike. This monument was actually. I don't think it's necessarily in the air, but what has happened is that Agent Orange has stayed in the system of those servicemen. And so that's why it's still affecting them now. Okay. You'll have to excuse the renegade style of how we have to do this. But this is a placard that's near that monument. Oh, no, no, no. By all means, thank you. No, I totally got it. I got it. So this is an actual placard. Yep. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Cartoon, for looking that up. Mr. Cartoon likes to look stuff up during the live, and that's a big help. But this placard actually is kind of basically the commemorative part for this monument that these quarry workers had done. And what it'll say on the actual monument is this message right here. In honor of our nation's brave that sleeps over the wake, they died that we be free, no more war to be, 1918. That's when they did it. Now, real quick, here in Missouri, the Leadington Post, the VFW Leadington Post, paid just to have this. this placard right here for monument that you guys are about to see. This was engraved in the granite at this granite quarry as a way of basically commemorating the troops that are overseas. So this is they paid for this, and this is actual Braille. This is part of the Braille Trail at Elephant Rocks here in Missouri. But you walk up this little trail, this lonely little trail, and right there on the granite side is exactly where this is. Now you'll actually see that the erosion is slowly eating away. This monument is almost gone. Now I haven't been out there a couple of years, and I do want to go out there and actually do an actual walk of the Braille Trail again and do it more or less for realsies. But this monument is almost completely eroded away, and this video footage actually comes from 2018. So 100 years later, this monument is almost gone. Record the Missouri park. The Missouri parks actually take donations, and then our tax money here in Missouri, the state tax money, is supposed to go for stuff like this, taking care of the parks. Why are they not taking care of that? Well, I can only hope that it doesn't slow you guys down. And I know Kansas would love to have people like you guys. But yes, so that is actually actual video footage of what is left of that monument, and it will soon be gone. And that is an indicator. That should be a complete indicator what it is actually like for our veterans. The VAs oftentimes do not treat our veterans as well as they should. And if you're a Vietnam veteran, forget it. They're going to treat you as poorly as they can. That whole welcome home Vietnam veterans that they did, what, in 2016, that was a joke. That was paying it lip service. Again, I'm going to say it again to the camera. For our Vietnam veterans, they were they were completely mistreated when returning home from Vietnam. Those servicemen who fought in Vietnam were treated so poorly, and it was the freaking hippies that were doing it. And again, I'm going to say it again. When you talk about the baby boomers, there's two types of baby boomers. The ones that were fighting in the war and supporting that war for our servicemen, and then there was the other side. The ones that were protesting that war, they were also protesting the men and women who were returning home. So no, they were not cool. Again, I actually have a friend who served in Vietnam, and he told the story. When he was getting off the plane, it was hippies that ran up and were spitting on him, calling him baby killer, and all sorts of horrible, horrible names like that, was spitting on him because they seen him in his uniform. That is what the hippies were really about. So that whole thing about them being, peace and love, and no, wrong. Absolutely wrong. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dorothy's Hobbies Farm. Because for the record, the Vietnam veteran that I'm talking about actually was a firefighter, paramedic for Metro West Fire District. And served along my dad as a firefighter, well, part of the fire service and ambulance service. And the two of them were actually really good friends. And I don't know if Dad still keeps up with them, but they, just absolutely Um, an amazing, an amazing guy. He took 2 tours in Vietnam as part of our special forces, what we sometimes refer to as the Green Berets, special forces. And he was a combat medic. By the way, when he seen special forces, he thought it was like something really cool. And the next thing he knew, when he signed up for it, he was jumping out of helicopters and stuff like that. He's like, what the hell did I get myself into? But he took 2 tours in Vietnam. And so a total of 8 years in Vietnam as a combat medic with our special forces. And getting off the plane, coming home, they were spitting on him, calling him baby killer. That whole thing, like you seen in First Blood with Sylvester Stallone, where he was saying they were calling me baby killer and all this vile crap. That was real. And that was in 1970 when that happened to this man. For the record, Ronald Reagan sometimes, yeah, Ronald Reagan sometimes gets discredited for a lot of the good that he did. One of the things that is not talked about in this country that he tried to do, there was still talk about POWs that did not come home from Vietnam. So there are POWs, prisoners of war, that have probably died in Vietnam. We can pretty well guarantee it. There are POWs that have died in Vietnam. They did not come home. Ronald Reagan during the 1980s spent most of his 8 years in the presidential office trying to get as much information and trying to get those men home from Vietnam. He fought most of his time in office trying to get those people home. Nobody talks about that. But Ronald Reagan did try. That is part of his legacy that is not talked about. Ronald Reagan was very instrumental in bringing to light the fact that those men did not return home. That they died as POWs. And again, if you have never seen the Vietnam Memorial Wall, you definitely need to. There is the one that stays up in Washington, D.C., and then there's the mobile one, and I have seen it twice in my lifetime so far. And the first time since Dorothy's Hobby Farms has joined us and is a veteran, I feel obliged to tell that story again. I seen the mobile Vietnam Memorial Wall in I seen it for the first time in like 1984. And in 1980, it was very new then. I was literally about 4 years old. And that being said, my dad took my mom, who was pregnant with my younger brother, myself, and took us to see this wall for the first time. I had no idea what I was looking at. Bear in mind, I'm 4 years old. What do I know about, Vietnam at that time, except what we started learning about in school and what I was seeing in movies and what my dad was talking about, because it was still a real deal in the 1980s. It was, as a matter of fact, again, I'm going to say that it was almost like a lot of us kids were being conditioned in schools that we were supposed to go back to Vietnam and get the win that we never got. We were almost being taught that in the schools. That's not a joke. The propaganda was very heavy. But when Dad took us to see the Vietnam Memorial Wall for the first time, he had to explain to me what MIA, KIA, and POW meant. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I will ask that before you take off, I know you got to lock up the animals, that you at least, if you get the opportunity, come back and watch the playback, so you can hear this part of the story. I think it needs to be heard. And so, and if you get the opportunity to talk to your wife's grandfather, who served during Vietnam, I would hope that you at least play this part for him. Um, so again, thank you so much for being here. There I am. I'm standing in front of this the mobile wall for the first time. It's like 1984, and I'm looking at it, and I still remember it to like this day. Looking at it for the first time, I couldn't remember the names or anything, but Dad had to explain to me what MIA, KIA, and POW meant because I did not know. I was 4 years old. What the hell did I know? And bear in mind, I was your typical awkward 4-year-old child. Okay, so for any of you out there who have children, know exactly what I'm talking about. So I remember again that this particular, but looking off over to the side, I see this gentleman with a piece of paper, and he's going through the list. He's going through the names on the wall. And I'm assuming that on the piece of paper was some names of his old buddies from the war, from Vietnam. So as he's going through, he gets to a certain part on the wall, and I just happen to see this, 4 years old. I happen to see this, and he gets to a spot, sees a certain name, puts his hand up like this, drops to his knees, and starts crying uncontrollably. I didn't understand. I'm 4 years old. I look at my dad. Why is that man crying? And Dad, his friend didn't come home from the war. And I immediately, before Dad could have a chance to stop me, I run over to this man, very awkward, and I say, Mister, I'm sorry, your friend didn't come home, as best as I could. And the man looks up, tears in his eyes. I'll never forget it. And he gives me this great big hug. And, just gives me this great big hug. And of all the things, my dad comes running up. Sir, I'm so sorry, my son, that my son is bothering you. And the man looks up after giving me a big hug, and he says, he's not bothering me. He's like, he's not bothering me at all. He said, it's very nice that he, it's very nice of him to say that. And my dad and that veteran got the chance to talk a little bit. And then again, Dad said, I want to apologize for my son bothering you. He said, no. He said he wasn't a bother at all. If anything, I got a funny feeling that one of these days, I was only 4. He said, I got a funny feeling that one of these days he's going to do something special. If that man, if he's still alive, and if he ever sees this, a big giant thank you. A big giant thank you back then. I hope that I have done something special. If he ever gets a chance to see this, I hope that he knows that I have tried my best to do some special things in my lifetime. And I hope that he would be happy to see this. So, I mean, again, a big special shout out to especially to our Vietnam, all of our veterans, but especially our Vietnam veterans here in the United States. They got a raw deal. And again, I'm going to say it. The hippies that were protesting them, you guys should have been arrested for that, but you weren't. You got away with it. And then you go on later and screw an entire generation. You guys screw over an entire generation, and that generation is now the laughing stock of this country. So you guys not only mistreated people in your own generation, but you did it to children younger than me. Thankfully, those same hippies tried to get to my generation. We didn't listen. We didn't listen. Thank goodness. We knew better. We listened to our Vietnam veterans. We knew what was up. And thank God for them. We listened to them. You know, thank God we listened to those Vietnam veterans, because Generation X would have been screwed if we hadn't. Yeah, I said it. All righty. So that does bring it already has. It already has, Bucky. It already has. Because my generation is now stepping up and trying to fix that generation now. We should have done it a long time ago, but we're taking the initiative finally. And we've been trying to do that here on the Prince Magnum channel for a good long time. By trying to help that entire generation. And I say to the generation my children are in, the Zoomers, go gentle on them. They got the raw deal. You guys know we tried to teach you, because we listened to our veterans. We listened to them, and we tried to teach you right. Go easy on them. My generation dropped the ball and didn't show them that this is the way it's supposed to be. We dropped the ball. Okay? Generation X dropped the ball on that generation. Go easy on them. Okay? If we'd have taken the initiative and told them that this is really the way it is, and not let that other generation screw them up, yeah, this would be a different story. So yeah, I said it. And that generation is now, they shouldn't be the laughing stock, but it was a particular sect of baby boomers that screwed them. You know, it was an entire particular sect of baby boomers. It wasn't our Vietnam veterans. They tried. But by that time, health issues, because they weren't getting the help from the VA like they were supposed to. So yeah, I said it. All right. So that brings us to the spot where I do want to kind of slow down a little bit, and I want to start winding down for the night. I need to go take care of my blood sugar. So we have some traditional stuff here on the Prince Magnum channel that we have to do. We have to do it. It's a must here on the Prince Magnum channel. So I'm going to do it again. My chair squeaks. Of all the things, my chair squeaks. But because my chair squeaks, all I have to do is do something suggestive, and you all will laugh uncontrollably. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I had to do it. All righty. Now, another something that we need to talk about here on the Prince Magnum channel. There it is. Everybody's losing it. Something else that we need to talk about here on the Prince Magnum channel is this is a DIY channel. And because we're a DIY channel, we do a lot of car stuff. And to get some amazing shots that go out over the hood of Project Spirit and Project Lena, those come from some particular dash cams that we're very proud of here on the Prince Magnum channel. 1080 pixel high definition cameras. These are really nice. Bought them from Walmart. I mean, some people say some bad stuff about the camera equipment that comes from Walmart, but these are damn good cameras. Well, unfortunately, they're dash cams. And because they're dash cams, there is no other way to mount them except on the mounts that connect to your, the suction cup mounts that go on your windshield. And literally, I don't have one available, but, easy killer, that go out over the, through the windshield, over the hood on Project Spirit and Project Lena. Those are the only mounts that you can get. I st- So because of that, I got the idea that maybe I should make my own camera stand for these amazing camera mounts. And so basically, I went in behind HQ and cut down this little tree that normally the city comes through and cuts down for us to keep the snakes out of the neighborhood because, where I live, snakes are a problem and we have a lot of kids in the neighborhood. So they usually cut down all these trees to keep the snakes down. Well, this for obvious reasons right now, the city hasn't been able to get over here and do that. And normally they haul the brush off. Well, I cut down this little tree and cut out a section of wood to build my own camera mount. And this is the actual camera mount. So, because, I needed this camera mount and I fashioned it myself, this is how it works. Literally, I cut down the bottom right here. So it fits, just lays right like that. Absolutely amazing. And then I carved out this section right here, and literally the camera just sits right here. Well, the moon shape file. and then to get where the camera lens is on the camera right here, what I had to do was I had to basically make this little knock right here. And the way that I had to do that was I took this file, this half moon shaped file right here. And I laid it down on this block of wood and worked it back and forth until I had this perfectly shaped knock. Then, after doing that, the camera lens sits perfectly right there. So, because I took this file right here and used it on this block of wood, that must mean I am really good at filing and should try my hand at being a secretary. A traditional joke here on the Prince Magnum channel every time we're in the office. We've been in the office quite a bit. Weather's sucked lately. I'm glad you still enjoy the joke, Bucky. Where is Sean? That's his joke. He lives for that joke. I mean, I've been missing Sean. Every time I tell that joke, where the hell is Sean? It's one of those jokes that it's definitely worth telling. Oh my gosh. Oh, day. You can tell I had a long day at work. Okay. But that does bring us to a spot again. Tomorrow is Thursday night sober talk. We will be live and we are going to talk sobriety. So we are definitely doing that tomorrow. I am already looking forward to it. I hope Queen Bee doesn't have Queen Bee, we just I haven't. Oh, thank you, Queen, for being here. We just call her Queen for short. I tease and say Queen Bee is our refugee from Twitch. I always tease her and TFC Gaming saying there are refugees from Twitch. And I know she always thinks that's cute. I know she does. She enjoys that one. It's awesome that to tell that joke. Queenie Bee. Okay, that is kind of cute. I like that. Queenie Bee. um, you know, along with that, along with that, I'm I was told, looking at the tracking, the part that Third Gen 83 bought for Project Spirit will be here. Saturday. So that means Fancy Friday is still on. It'll be Fancy Friday. We will have to do 2 live streams on Saturday, the unboxing of this new part. And if at all possible, we're going to try to put it on there. But do not forget, we will have sexy Saturday as usual here on the Prince Magnum channel. Very much so. We love our sexy Saturdays. So we will have, so the regular schedule is still on. Thursday night sober talk, fancy Friday for surviving romance, and of course, sexy Saturday for off the chain. I have no idea what the hell we're going to do Sunday. We might have to do a cooking live stream. We may have to do something special for Princess Faye. That would be nice. And of course, anytime we do any cooking live streams, I know that Queen always says, where's mine? She always tells me that she loves Queen, when this crap is over with, or at least close to being over with, you and TFZ Gaming, the two of you were, we're all going to have to get together. I know Sad Cat, she hasn't been in here in a couple of days. Sad Cat is also from you guys' neck of the woods, from around those parts. We're all, I know her and her sweetheart, and all of us are going to have to, a bunch of us are going to have to get together. And you who can hop a plane and cross the pond, we're all going to have to get together and have a big cookout. I mean, just an all-day event. Yeah, we're all going to have to get together, as many of us as possible, and have one great big giant cookout. I don't care where it is. I don't care what we do, but we're going to have a great big cookout. I would love to do that. And I will be glad to do kebabs all day long for you guys. Not a joke. I would do kebabs all day for you guys. And I'm a good cook. We'll even do hot dogs and all sorts of stuff. We'll cook and we'll just stuff ourselves like Thanksgiving turkeys. Yes, indeed, yeah. And any who can also hop a plane and come over here, you better. It'd be a big celebration, because I'm telling y'all right now, I would have so much fun. Okay. You do that, Bucky. You better make sure that we all get the link to that video. You better make sure of it. You guys can. I can't drink it, but just remember, just make sure I got my root beers. My root beer and root beer. There, there it was. You were thinking it at the same time. And root beer. We'll all have a good time. That's what's up. We'll all have a good time. And again, you guys mean the world to me. We need to have a big celebration like that, don't we? Big celebration of the Maverick Nation. How we've all come together, weathered this pandemic, and you guys got to hear me talk about, and right. And we weathered this, yeah, we're getting ready to go through the second wave, but we're going to weather this storm, That would be awesome. And we're going to weather this storm. We're going to do just fine. She likes her tequila rose. She also she's a wine. She likes her wines. As a matter of fact, for Valentine's Day, I'm probably going to get the hell beat out of me, by some of you ladies, some of our lady mavericks, because they're like, that is not fair. What's going on, Harold's Random Videos? We're actually slowly winding down. And all of our ladies, before we wind down, I got to, for Valentine's Day, what I did for Princess Faye, and I did a whole video series. You do? Put some links up, Harold. Put some links up. What are you waiting for? I know I've seen some of your videos. But for Princess Faye, I ran her a bubble bath. I kind of had a feeling. I ran basically for Princess Faye, she had a vanilla scented bubble bath. And once she climbed into that bubble bath, then I lit a couple of candles. So she had two candles. Basically, she had a candle lit vanilla scented bubble bath. And while she was laying in the bubble bath, I brought her a glass of red wine and a bowl of strawberries. And that is what she had for her Valentine's Day gift. She got to lay in a vanilla scented bubble bath and soak in with nothing but candlelight, sipping on red wine, uh, and eating strawberries. That was her Valentine's Day. And I did a whole video series earlier this year before we started doing regular lives. I did a whole video series explaining, walking everyone through. Yeah, she likes her red wine. She likes her red wine. Um, Now, for the record, in my old days when yeah, for the record, in my old days before I got sober, I liked red wine too, but we don't want me partaking with that red wine. Every time Prince Magnum here drinks, I always wake up and strange things happen. Yes, yes, I can buy alcohol and not be tempted. Now, if I do feel temptation, I walk away. I walk away. I'll tell you what, Queen Bee, you've got tomorrow's topic. You gave me tomorrow's topic for she buys it, but I'll buy it for her too. It doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, there's a bottle of tequila rose and a bottle of red wine still in the refrigerator. I don't touch it. So for you guys, I'll tell you what, Queen Bee, you came up with tomorrow's topic. Um, how I deal with being around alcohol. Thank you for giving us tomorrow's topic. Here, Galaxy. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming up with tomorrow's topic. All right, so now that we've covered all of that, think different. I knew you were still here, buddy. Okay, we covered all of our bases. uh, Get me drunk on root beer. I don't think that's what that's a sugar rush. um, so now that we've done that, yeah, yeah. For the record, there's a gal that comes in here every once in a while. Her name's Katie, and she's one of the Maverick mechanics. I was taught she was doing a live stream. Her and another gal goes by Frozen Cookie. Yeah. I was talking about what Princess Faye's Valentine's Day present was going to be, and Katie knows all about the Surviving Romance series. She basically said, Prince, I'm literally going to start deleting your comments right now if you keep talking about what you're going to do for your wife. She's like, you are setting the bar way too high for husbands. Way too high. She's like, no, you stop that right now. And you stop that right now because you're making all of us women jealous right now. Yeah. She's like, I was like, what did I do? And she's like, for real? For real? What did you do? She's like, all of us, us two ladies right here are very jealous of your wife. There's one gal, she goes by HDX, does video games, and she goes by Hell Girl on her channel. She always likes to tell, she always, when I'm in there, she's like, tell your wife I said hi, and I'm very jealous of her. She's like, oh, she is so lucky. So lucky. Because when I was talking about doing that, she's like, oh my God. She's like, that is not fair. And if I remember correctly, it was Hell Girl that actually said, was telling her husband about the series, and he's like, no. And he actually pretty much forbade her. Yeah, she was jealous in a good way. Like, oh my God, that lucky girl. Yeah. Kind of like, she's lucky sort of thing. But who was it? It was I think it was Hellgirl that was telling her husband. Oh yeah, Hellgirl's awesome. I think she was talking about it in her live stream one day. She said that her husband basically forbade her to watch Surviving Romance on this channel because evidently they don't exactly get along afterwards. Like, could you, come on here? And he's like, no. We have had, and for the record, in the area I live in, because of Surviving Romance, I've been unofficially named the most romantic husband in the area. Along with that, I will also say this might actually, Princess Faye has had one woman actually walk up to her and say, I want you to know right now, if you were ever dumb enough to leave your husband, he won't stay single long. That is not a joke. So evidently my work has not gone unnoticed. And for the record, that whole series is a dedication to Princess Faye. She enjoys it to a degree. Is it your husband? Prince Magnum on YouTube? Yes. So, let's see. So yeah. I think it was the other night. What was it we were talking about? Right? There you go. See, now TFC is going to have to he's one of our next Surviving Romance live streams. TFC is going to have to get his buddy in here, start giving away some of his romance tips. He's going to have to pony up because you never know. Some of these guys out here could use a few of those tips. I've actually given away like what I call the perfect pasta candlelight dinner. And I know Pisces Queen and Psychopath Jason Killer, they were like, yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, we're definitely, the Prince Magnum channel doing its part to bring both hot rodding and romance together. And one of these days, I swear to God, I am going to take Princess Faye on, Oh no, he better get to feeling good. He better get to feeling good. Yeah, that's right. He better, yeah. You tell TFZ I'm thinking of him. He's in my thoughts and prayers. If he's been sick, he's in my thoughts and prayers. Right? And all right, so yeah. Yeah, Harold knows Hellgirl, and Hellgirl's an amazing gal. Good. He better get to feeling good. He better get to feeling better. All right, so we do need to wind this down. I got to go take care of my blood sugar. I said that about a half an hour ago, and I'm starting to feel a little woozy. So, all righty. So that brings us to our usual point. Again, tomorrow is Thursday night sober talk. Definitely, yes, I'm going to shut it down, Queen. And Friday is going to be Fancy Fridays. So we're definitely going to go. Yes, I know you're going to ground me. I know you, Queen, you've been trying to ground me for this little stunt. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so far, that grounding hasn't worked. What are you going to do? Send me to my room? Take my birthday away? I'd just stay 40 then. And I know Princess Faye's like, there's no stopping him. Just give it up. Use bad. Galaxy, do not be trying to take out that screen. I know you want to kill it. Calm down, killer. No, you tell Faye. She's been trying to keep me under control for a long while now. Okay. So again, they're probably going to be Uh, I know Saturday there's probably going to be 2 live streams that day. Queen, don't threaten me with a good time. Oh, bad, bad. So good to be bad. Oh my God. Yeah, I did that. I totally did that. All right. So that that does bring us again. So Thursday night sober talk. Fancy Friday is still on, and I know. I think Amazing LSB will probably be in. He usually comes in for those, and of course, A&R loves it whenever I'm doing suits. So definitely more suit ideas. I'm going to show you guys how to interchange some stuff, interchange some ties with this next suit. It's going to be really awesome. This one suit that I have, you guys are going to love it. And eventually, I'm going to show you a traditional one, a very traditional suit. Very easy to do. So that being said, also Saturday, there's going to probably be 2 different live streams that day. One is going to be an unboxing of the new part that's for Project Spirit, courtesy of none other than 3rd Gen 83. And then, of course, Sexy Saturday will definitely be on. Sunday, we're going to try to do... we are definitely going to try to do something special Sunday, probably some sort of cooking live stream. We're going to try to do a lot of cooking on Sunday, and then of course Monday. Again, I apologize about this last Monday. We had some bugs that we had to deal with. Some bugs with the Legend of Zelda. I'm not going to release crap for you guys. If I'm gonna do a video. If I'm going to do any video here on the Prince Magnum channel, for you guys, I'm not going to release garbage. And the rate that video was going, it was complete garbage. I needed to go back and redo the voiceover for that video. I'm not going to do that to you guys. You guys always deserve the best I can possibly do at every possible chance that I can do. And it doesn't matter if it's in a live stream or if it's recorded content and edited and all that. You guys deserve the best I can deliver. And that was not my best. So I put a stop right there. And it's just one of those things. We're going to have to wait for that content. So that's how I felt about that. You guys deserve the best. Because again, you guys are important to me. You guys help me stay sober. And, I got Princess Faye that, is slowly losing her hearing. And eventually I want to be that stay-at-home husband that takes care of his wife. That's what this channel's big focus is. So it's you guys that are watching right now, sharing me out, telling all your friends and everything. Come over here, check this guy out. He needs your help. He needs your support so he can get monetized and he can turn on the super chat and everything like that. You guys are the ones that are helping me get to that point, so you guys are not only, helping me trying to help me with the finances, but you're also trying to help me with staying sober. 14 years later, it's still a life and death thing for me. So you guys are important. You guys are more important than you know. And along with that, I've gotten to know I love you guys. I've gotten to know so many of you, and I love you guys as if you are my family. That's the power of the Maverick Nation. Again, for those that do not know, the Maverick Nation, how do you become a member of the Maverick Nation? You hit that big red support button, and then you ding that bell. That's how you become a member of the Maverick Nation. Come in regularly, hang out. That's it. That's how you become a member of the Maverick Nation. And along with that, Bucky, I'm always glad when you're here. Uh, Along with that, you know, uh, our ladies in the Maverick Nation have their own special title. They are known as Lady Mavericks. Our Lady Mavericks are very special because, you know, surviving romance for the longest time, they were the ones that watched it when it was actually supposed to be kind of weird. I'll have to tell that story sometime. But along with that, along with that, that brings us to our usual stopping point. Okay. Again, all of you are very special to me. So I will say to all of you, get out there and work on a project. Yeah, I'm getting ready to shut it down. Getting ready to shut it down, Mr. Cartoon. As always, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind make horrible bedfellows. It's been a while since I've said it that way. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them today. As always, for all of you out there, even in these dark times, even in these dark times, if no one out there has told any of you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.